everybody, and welcome to the 12th episode of the Near Mint Hockey Card Podcast. We've got a really fun one for you today. I'm your host, Elan Dubrofsky. With me is your other host, Ryan Krieg.
Hey, Elan. Hey, everybody. This is our 12th episode. We'll call it the Aginla episode in the fashion I did last week with Alfredson. But
Okay, so that's exciting. We could get this going every week now. Who's number 13 going to be?
well, I can't spoil next week's episode.
Sure. You got to listen. Right. This is how we get subscribers, right? People are going
Yeah.
to want to tune in and see which player we're going to be calling out by their number.
And Aginla is a Canadian player, so it really leads well into our topic of the week.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, the plan for today, we are going to go through all of the Canadian teams and give you a player from that team that we're investing in their cards, who we think is the best investment. So, it's not necessarily the most valuable card because obviously with Edmonton, let's say Connor McDavid is obviously the most expensive Young Guns card you could get right now, but doesn't mean it's a good investment if you think that it's stagnated or you think it's going to go down. Maybe you'll choose a Yamamoto. But I don't want to spoil the Oilers talk. We'll get there when we get there, but that's the plan for the show. And I'm very excited for it. And if it goes well, maybe next week we'll do another division and then we'll do all four divisions. This is the plan maybe for the rest of the year. So this should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. I know for a fact that there's probably one or two teams that we just don't really talk about very often for whatever reason. Maybe they don't have like the new up and coming rookie that, we leave them in the dust. And this will be a nice way to make sure we touch on all the teams and some of the players we don't talk about.
Most definitely. Yeah. So for anyone new to the show, you could follow us at Near Mint Hockey. We'd love to hear your feedback of which players you're investing in on those teams, why you think we're wrong or right about who we're going to shout out. So before we get to that content, I know you always, Ryan, want to give us the up-to-date news on the hockey card industry. And there's been some exciting news last week. My stepfather called me a couple days ago and I was like, Elan, you really blew it selling that Gretzky. How much did you get for it? Not enough.
Yeah, it's funny. People have also been telling me about this auction because it's in the news. So yeah, the Gretzky PSA 10 OPG, like the top hockey card, is being auctioned right now, and I think it's at 960,000 American dollars right now. So might be the first card ever to hit 1 million. There's 1 day left. So if you want that card, get over there quick.
Still time. Do they do like a payment plan? Can I get a mortgage for a hockey card? Does it work like that if I go to the bank?
You know what? They probably do because that's a wild amount of money. Like, what do you do? Write a check?
Yeah, I wondered do people take out loans to buy collectibles? If not, maybe that's a business we can start, and we could start a little bank loaning people money to buy their cards, and then when they sell it for profits, we get all the interest. I don't know. We could figure something out. But yeah, that's big news. So I had a Gretzky, the exact same card, like it was printed by the exact same company, the exact same time, but unfortunately, mine before it got to my hands when I was a little kid. It wasn't taken care of so well. And when I sent it to KSA to grade, they gave it a 4 out of 10. While whoever got this card out of the pack kept it in great condition. I'd love to hear the story of this card. Like, have you seen that movie? I think it was called The Red Violin.
Yeah.
About this like famous violin over history. I'd love to see like something like that before this specific Gretzky card and see how it got to this owner that's now selling it and is going to get $1 million because they did a great job for, what is it, since 1979,
Yeah.
right? So we're talking 30 years. No, 40 years. And now it's PSA 10, which is the best score that you can get from PSA. And that's worth over $1 million. Mine, I got, I think, $1,300 because it was a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
So the same card.
Yeah, you don't get 40% of 1 million, unfortunately. And there's only 2 of these in the world. So it's got a twin somewhere. And that person that owns that is probably looking at this and just licking their lips.
Yeah. I wonder, are there any unopened packs of 1979 80 OPG? Okay, so there might be potentially more.
Well, there's definitely the hope, and those go for an absurd amount of money. But the odds of something being PSA 10 in a box that's been around for so long, with cards like sticking together or like, being bumped at all, like, your odds of getting one are not good, but getting one in PSA 10 condition is not.
I see.
Yeah, there's only 2 in the world, right?
Yeah, and so it must be the type. Again, that's why I want to hear the history. Like this must have been like they took it out of the pack and put it right into a case. How did they know back then?
But yeah, that would be a really interesting story.
Let's get them for an interview for the next episode.
Right.
so whoever's been keeping the card. It's like the keepers of the cup, but the keepers of the card and over history, just like taking it from person to person. All right, so that's that news story. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we get to our content for the show?
Well, I've been prepping a PSA submission for us, and it's a lot of work. I've been going through all the cards that we might want to submit and basically taking half or more than half of them and being like, nope, those are probably nines or worse, not worth sending over. And then, the next step is going to be cleaning them and putting them in a nice new sleeve and packaging them up, and it's a process.
Yeah, but hopefully it'll be worth it. The whole idea is we're going to get into it with some of these players. We're going to talk about an ungraded version of a card versus if you get a PSA 10, like we're seeing with Gretzky, like it could be worth a lot more. So we're hoping to hit big. It's been kind of a depressing few days because I gave you some of my cards to include in the submission, and you were such a gentleman, decided to like look at the quality for me and give me your opinion of what PSA will give. And you told me that you think my Kucherov Young Guns is only going to be an 8, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
Why do you have to do this to me, Ryan? I thought it looked okay, but you looked closely. You knew what to look for. You told me the centering was. I hate centering. I've already said this. My least favorite thing to be bad about a card. It's not even my fault or anyone's fault. I guess it is my fault because I bought this card from someone else and I could have looked more carefully before buying it. But that's on me. So it's not even gonna be worth sending it in. If it's actually an 8, then probably I could sell it more raw. Then it's a matter of just like how honest you want to be. I guess you post a picture. If I wanted to be a really honest person, I would like post this on eBay and be like, FYI, the centering, look at it before you buy it because it might be off. But I'm sure most people don't do that. Definitely the person who sold this to me on Kijiji did not mention the centering when they sold me the Kucherov card.
Well, and some people are not as worried about that. There's a lot of people that just want the card in raw condition, and maybe they're not too fussed about that. They might care more about corners or whatever it is. But actually, to give you some good news, I've been looking through some of your older cards, and for one, like older cards in general, like, the Gretzky era rookies or even like Lidstrom rookie, to buy them raw, it's pretty cheap. But if you can get a good grade on them, like a 10 or a 9 even, the increase is a lot steeper than it is when you look at raw versus PSA 10 for the newer cards. And in some of the cases, your cards, even if they get an 8, are going to be pretty good. You've got a Yager in there and a Brodeur, and there's some cards that like at a 9, which I think you'll get with some of them, pretty good. And actually, some of your older cards are in very good condition.
All right. I know I have a Messier and a Ray Bork, 2 rookies in there. I'm excited to see what those will be. But okay, maybe people don't care so much about my grades, but we promised we'd keep people posted about this whole grading process. So we'll send them in. Then I guess it'll probably be like a 6-month wait, but it'll be very exciting to see when the cards come back. Check out a previous episode. We did one all about grading. I don't have the episode number off the top of my head, but we don't have that many episodes. So just like scroll up on your
something.
Yeah. The one that's called grading is the one where we talked about grading. All right. So let's get to our plan for the show. So we've got 7 Canadian teams, and I guess we're just going to go back and forth in terms of who goes first. If I go first and say my player that I'm investing in on this team, does that mean you have to pick someone else, or are we allowed to agree on this?
I'll probably give you my pick regardless, and it might be the same one, but maybe I'll give you a backup pick if it's the same. And we should mention that we're doing all the Canadian teams first because it's looking almost certain that will be one of the divisions in the NHL this coming season. So start off with that Canadian division. Hopefully by next week we know exactly what the other ones are. There's some rumors out there around what they're going to be and what the setup is, but we feel pretty confident given the travel restrictions that Canada's going to be a division.
Right. And what's really interesting is tying this back to hockey cards. That's going to be very exciting, right? Seeing all these Canadian teams playing each other. I wonder if that might build up more buzz than usual around some of these players we're going to talk about, because maybe people are going to, Leafs fans are going to be seeing Elias Pettersson and Connor McDavid a lot more often than they're used to seeing them. And so now all of a sudden that might be like new eyes on some of these superstars, or maybe even players like that are like everyone knows those guys, but maybe like, one level down,
sure,
like, like a Nikolai Ehlers or someone on the Jets. Like maybe a lot of casual Leafs or Sens fans don't don't know this guy, and they're going to see, like, wow, this is a pretty good player. Maybe who knows if that's going to lead to a boost in these players' cards. So I feel like just in general, like I think there's a lot of buzz around the start of this hockey season just because it's been so long. Like I could just tell you from running Keeping Karlsson, we have a Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League, so a league for the patrons of my fantasy hockey podcast, and we've got a lot of people signing up. Like I thought that maybe it would be fewer than in previous years, just because there's all this fatigue and maybe people have lost interest. But no, it's like the opposite. Like people are stoked to play fantasy hockey again, and I'm sure that also translates to people stoked to watch hockey again. So now the players we talk about in this episode now might be a good time to buy. Might be too late, as we'll discuss with some of the players, but some of these guys might get a lot of buzz. And let's start in Ottawa. And how about I'll go first, because that's what we have written down in our document here.
Why don't you go first?
This one. So this is not, in general, like I said, it's not always just going to be the best player on the team. But I think this one's pretty obvious, or to me, it was pretty clear right away that if I was going to invest, if you give me $10,000 right now and I have to spend it all on one player's Young Guns card, if it's like $1,000 and I could get 10 of them, if it's $1, I could get 10,000 of them with the plan to sell them in the future and make a profit, I would take all my Ottawa money and spend it on Brady Tkachuk Young Guns cards. And I feel like the reasoning, I don't know, to me, it's like pretty obvious. Like, first of all, he's, I think, the best player on the team at the moment. Maybe you could arguably say like Thomas Chabot, but I think in terms of like, especially excitement, who's going to lead the team in points, it's almost for sure, I think, going to be Tkachuk. Plus, he's like a fun player. Like, I think he's the type of player that people like watching on TV. He's like tough. He's got that grit that people like in fantasy, he's getting you like the hits and the pims and like lots of shots on goal. Like, he's just an exciting, dynamic player. Like, and then also, well, in this case, we had to buy a Senator, but just in general, if you could buy cards from anybody, I think this team, they have a good young core that probably not this year, they're probably going to be terrible again. But I think in not a long time, maybe they actually go to the playoffs again. And I remember I lived in Ottawa the last time the Sens made the playoffs, or okay, maybe it's not that long ago, but it feels like it's that long ago. Like people get very excited. Like the Sens have a very excited fan base when they go. Everyone has those flags on their cars. People go nuts. I feel like if a Sens going to playoff run, Brady Tkachuk is going to be the face of the team. Like they have some other, young, like Stützle, whatever. They'll have other exciting players. Maybe Matt Murray as the goalie if he could pull it together. But I just think Tkachuk's going to be the star on the team. He's going to lead the team. He's a fun player. It's all the ingredients are there to be a good buy. And right now I'm looking on eBay. And, just recently, raw Young Guns card of Brady Tkachuk, we're talking like $20 to $30. Like, we're not even talking like a lot of money. And then if you wanted to invest in something a little more safe, like a graded card, like a PSA 10 Tkachuk, we're looking at like a bit over $100. I've even seen some examples of it going a little less than $100, but then it's because the shipping brings it over. I think I bought one, and I think I spent like 100 or 110 on it. So not nothing, but compared to some other players we're going to talk about on this show, it's not too pricey. And like I said, if you don't have $100 to spend, drop $25, get a raw one, do better than I did with my Kucherov. Like,
yes, inspect your cards.
Yeah, inspect the pictures as well. Come to the Discord where we are chatting about hockey cards all the time, and you can find the link to that in our show notes and ask, what do you guys think about the quality of this card? Get yourself a good Tkachuk. I think it's a good investment.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on Brady Tkachuk, and this one for me was pretty much a tie. I ended up going the Chabot route. But this is one of the hardest decisions for me. I think both of those guys are amazing. You can't really go wrong. Chabot right now is going for like $15 raw and like just under 100 to 100 graded. The interesting thing with Chabot for me is that his graded cards, like the graded to PSA 10 ratio is greater. So maybe you could buy a bunch raw and do better. And, Chabot is a guy that I could see going the Makar, Heiskanen, Quinn Hughes route in the next couple years and really, like, just lighting the team on fire. Like, I could definitely see him, if they make the playoffs and go on a run one day, like you said, being the guy. Like, it could easily be him as well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't disagree. Like, Chabot's awesome, don't get me wrong, but I guess just for fun, I will just disagree in that, like, he's not a Makar or like a Hughes because he's already played a few years. Like right now, those cards are like worth so much because they like just came out of the gate. People are so like excited about these players. And so you've got a Makar I see right behind you here in your background.
Yeah.
And where's the Chabot? I don't know
Oh,
because
I've
it's
got
not
quite a
as
few of those actually, but I do have a Brady
yep.
Kachuk back there too. Um, when I took this photo, I didn't have my Shabbats yet, but Shabbat is one that I actually do have probably 5 or 6 of now because it just seemed like such a
Ungraded.
reasonable price. I've got
Yeah,
a couple graded, couple that are actually in the pile to go to PSA. So yeah,
cool. I've actually got a PSA 10 Shabbat as well, so I'm
nice.
obviously a fan. I've got my Sens trio of Kachuk, Shabbat, and Alex Galchenyuk as
Right.
my three
Yeah.
PSA 10 Ottawa
I
Senators.
guess we do both
Uh,
have the Galchenyuk still. And I
I will say that I think there's a little more competition for that, like the guyness in Eric Brandstrom over
Yep.
like maybe in a couple years by the time the Sens are going on this playoff run. Maybe it's more like they have two awesome defensemen, which is great for the team, but maybe makes it harder for Shabbat to stand out as like the valuable card as opposed to, I don't know. I just like really see Brady Kachuk as like the clear leader. I think he'll be the captain. So that's why I made that choice. But
Yeah,
all
that's
right.
fair.
I had a
Yeah.
feeling you'd say Shabbat. You like him.
No, I do really like him. He's a game changer. But I actually did look at Brandstrom, who you can get for a nice $5, and I don't think that's too bad a gamble right now. It's definitely, I think the reason I lean towards Shabbat or even Brady Kachuk is like we know those guys are extremely
Mhm.
talented, where Brandstrom would be much more of a gamble. And, maybe you could triple your money more easily than you might be able to triple your money on Shabbat, but it's way more likely that Shabbat's going to go up.
Man, back on September 27th, the Brandstrom PSA 10 went on eBay and the title says Pop 1. So it was
Yeah,
the first one that came back, I guess, from PSA. A Brandstrom Young Guns 28.78 and then $20 of shipping. That's a good deal. I wish I would have gotten in on that auction.
that's wild that a Pop 1, like fresh off the grading machine, would go for so low.
Yeah, I am surprised. Yeah, more recently, October 8th, one went for 69 and probably
Okay.
there aren't that many
Yeah.
left or out there right now, but once he like takes off, I'm sure more people will be sending in their Brandstroms to get graded. There was that thing you said. I guess we'll have to discuss this as we go. Like you brought up at one point on a previous show, how you feel like defensemen, it's harder for them to gain a lot of value because if you're like just like a good defenseman that helps the team, that doesn't necessarily make you like the person on the highlight reel that people get excited about in terms of buying and selling their cards.
Yep.
But then we also did say that like the high scoring defensemen are the exceptions,
Yeah.
like the Makars and the Hugheses, and you're hoping that Shabak V1. All right. So that's Ottawa. I guess yeah. As far as honorable mentions go, like I'll just say like on the opposite side right now, Matt Murray's Young Gun is going for a lot, and I thought of buying it, but I don't like the price to be
No,
honest. I
it's
think it's too
it's
much.
quite high.
Like more than give me a Kachuk over a Matt Murray because Matt Murray, even if he's like decent, fine. I don't see the value going up
No,
considering it's
he's
already
yeah, he's kind of
yeah.
earned it, right? Like he's won his cups, he's done his thing in
Mhm.
Pittsburgh.
But I
Um,
feel like the more time that passes away from those cups, and he could potentially have a really rough season
oh
on
yeah,
Ottawa this year. Like we could be looking at a Bobrovsky for this year, and I don't think Bobrovsky's cards went too high up in value over the past season. I could see something similar happening to Matt Murray,
yeah.
so I would stay away. Okay, let's go to Montreal, the place where you don't even have to necessarily be good at hockey to have your card worth a lot of money. It's like these players, people are very into the Habs,
Yeah.
especially I guess people east of us here in Toronto. So why don't you go ahead and share who you chose of all of these players that are probably all going to be worth a lot of money as long as they do something? Who'd you choose as
Well,
the number one to invest in?
yeah. So I was looking at Montreal, and there's a lot of options, and there's a lot of options that I didn't love that much, and then there's like one or two on the team that I thought were interesting, but currently at quite a high price tag. So I took a bit of a different route with Montreal, and I think that actually my investment, if we're going on this theory where you can spend $10,000 on one player and get the most uh, percentage increase, my choice is Patrick Waugh.
Ah, I didn't think you were allowed to go players like former
Yeah,
players.
why
That's so
not?
funny.
Um, because
Why Patrick Waugh?
well, so it's kind of like the Gretzky thing, right? Like, so Gretzky's selling for $1 million right now. If you think of the greats of the game, there's 10 names and was amongst them. Um, his value is steadily going up. It's not gonna like skyrocket for any reason, but at the same time, he's running a pretty successful team over there, and he's one of the all-time greats. So I like for me when I'm deciding between like Patty Waugh, Suzuki, Kakaniemi, like I just don't think that I'm ready to spend $50 on a Suzuki Young Guns just because he's like the hotness in Montreal. Um, and I think he's going to be really good. I do. I just don't really see him as a superstar yet. And so when you think of like $50 for a Young Gun, that's pretty high.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Like I agree. Like I actually had a very similar train of thought. I was almost positive you were going to copy me here. And then you had that crazy swerve at the end. But yeah, so just to close the loop on Patrick Waugh, I'm looking now on eBay about what his cards have sold for recently. So an ungraded Raw Tops rookie that was PSA 7 sold for 122. I wonder like if I could find a PSA 10. How many of those do you think exist in the world?
PSA
If
10
Gretzky has
Patrick
only
was? I'm not sure, but I was looking at his PSA cards and they get pretty pricey.
Oh
But
yeah, we're up to around $4,000 actually for the OPC PSA 10 of the rookie card. It went for 3,900 just on November 1st. So there you go.
yep,
Did
they've
you see, by the way, my post in the show and tell room on Discord?
when?
Just today, a friend of mine sent me a picture. Like, what now that we have a hockey card podcast, now whenever I mention it to someone, they're like, I used to have some cards. I
Yeah,
got some cards down in the basement. I'm gonna go. Let me go pull those up. So I told him, yeah, like get your cards and send them to me. And he sent me a picture of some of the cards that he has. He actually has like baseball, hockey, like and basketball. So he's got a bunch. And Patrick Waugh rookie is in here,
cool.
but I'm looking closely, and those corners are not a
Not so
PSA
hot.
10,
But hey,
unfortunately.
like
So we're making.
Patrick Waugh PSA 8, PSA 7 might still get you a few $100, right?
I think this one we're looking at like a maybe a 4 or a
Okay.
3.
Well, maybe not then. But that's still
But
cool.
there, he has a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card that actually the quality looks really good. So maybe that's the one to go send and get graded.
I don't have any idea what that would be worth.
I don't know what this Ken Griffey
Is that
Jr.
what
is. He also
sport
has
is
a
that?
Ray. He has a Ray Bork, and I gave you a Ray Bork rookie, the exact same
Yes.
card to get graded for me. So maybe if the grade isn't that good, then we can just like send his Ray Bork, and he doesn't need to know
Oh,
that.
I see what you're saying. Right.
It's also funny. So this is like, I guess, from his childhood, right? The cards that he thought would be valuable, because I think these ones are all in like
Yep.
nice cases. It's funny that there's an Eric Lindros rookie here because everyone assumed that Eric Lindros, like he was big money when I was growing up. The Lindros rookie was the most expensive guy you could get of the modern players, like more than like a Yager. And now I don't even think that card's worth that much because Eric Lindros didn't. He had a solid career, but cut short. And he was really good.
um,
Anyway,
Let me ask you a quick
I have an
question.
answer,
No,
by the
you
way. Oh,
haven't.
sorry. Go ahead.
When are we talking about Toronto?
We'll get there. We'll get there. We're not done on Montreal yet.
I know. I got a notification, and there's a Nylander auction ending in like 15 minutes, and I was like, ooh.
Okay, let's switch over because actually Nylander was going to be my pick for the Leafs.
Oh no.
Is it a PSA 10? Give me the details on this auction.
It is. It is. PSA 10, $86 plus $17 shipping.
Yeah.
15 minutes left. It's not.
I
It's
think
not
if
going
you
to go
could
for
get it,
$86.
yeah, if you could get it for 100 total, I would like that. I would even go up to 110. I think Nylander is the guy on the Leafs. I think I've said this actually on a previous show. It's like Matthews is high, Marner is high. Like those guys, you could buy them, sure, and they could still go up if the Leafs actually. I think if the Leafs go on a playoff run and could finally get out of the first round, I think that all of the players have a higher ceiling because people will just get more and more excited about them.
Yeah.
So like I think any Leaf is a good investment unless you think they're going to continue to disappoint year in year out. But Nylander I think has a lot of room to grow just because I think he really hasn't been as good as Marner, but like it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about Nylander versus Marner, and it like really was a coin flip in terms of who's the better player. And I still don't necessarily think that Nylander, like 3-4 years down the road, is going to be getting that many fewer points than Marner. So it's just a hunch that I have. I feel like Nylander could end up getting to that Marner level. He
Yeah.
just needs to sort of have a good, healthy season, no contract holdout or anything weird like that.
I could see them being on like a similar level of hype. I think Marner's always going to get more points, but Nylander will get to the point where he's scoring enough goals that people are starting to see them more evenly. Just because Marner is more of a setup guy, he's more of the guy that is going to like drive play. He'll get the points, but that's not to say that their cards won't even out a little bit. I also think like in the hockey card world, Mitch Marner is just like a more likable guy. He's like more in the media, and so that might keep his value a little bit higher.
I would have thought that Nylander, as like an objectively better looking human, I would have thought that his card would be worth more just because of that.
Yeah, but people are like gangbusters over Ovi and over Matthews, and
Yeah,
yeah,
studs.
they're both good looking, right?
So anyway, that's my Leafs pick. Let's go back to the Habs, then we can do your Leafs
All
pick. But
right,
I would make a bid.
all right.
Don't listen. I have a Nylander PSA 10. I told you I traded a Panarin. I did a whole deal on Facebook to get my Nylander PSA 10. I'm
Good
very
tip.
happy about it. Okay, Habs. So I'm with you that this team, and it's the same for fantasy, and it's the same. Like I feel like the Montreal is looking like a really good team for next year because I think they have a really like deep top nine. Like they have a lot of good forwards on this team that are all really good, but none of them are superstars. Like probably at this point, Nick Suzuki is like the biggest superstar, quote unquote, or like a Gallagher. But these are guys, no one's expecting any of them to get like 90 points. Like we're
No.
not talking about even like a Brady Kachuk, I think has a higher ceiling, who we just talked about. Even though last year he didn't get a lot of points, but he had a very low shooting percentage. Anyways, we're off the Sens. You know, we're going to get to some teams, you know, like a McDavid and a Pedersen and all these guys. Like these are like superstars, right? And like Suzuki's like a solid, good player, but I feel like, anyways, you get what I'm saying. So it's like I just don't see any of these guys really like breaking out and being like the must-have. There's one player on the Habs that is a superstar that everyone loves, and that's their goalie, Carey Price. And that's where I thought you were going to go, but then you went way back to Patrick Waugh. But like, imagine the scenario that this deep Habs team that they've finally built up, they're like, it looks like this team, if they're ever going to contend, it would be now, right? They even got a backup for Carey Price so that Price can be rested and try to let him do what he did last year in the playoffs, where he was able to beat Pittsburgh. And I'll bet you a lot of that had to do with he had that long layoff because of COVID, and he came out fresh and he was unstoppable or unbeatable, I should say. So Carey Price, obviously, you need to open your wallet
Yeah.
because he's already a very popular guy. But it just goes to show, like Montreal already loves him. And in my scenario, if the Habs win the cup or go far, it's definitely going to be on the back of Carey Price, and he's just gonna people are gonna lose their mind for him. Like a lot of people, I have a Habs fan friends that tell me that Carey Price is like not even the best goalie. Not even like the best player in the NHL. Like I have a friend who's told me that he thinks Carey Price is the best athlete in the world.
Wow.
That's what I've been
Yeah.
told.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so the Carey Price Young Guns card right now is 2007. It recently sold for $850
Raw.
for no PSA 10.
Oh,
Sorry.
really?
Raw. I don't know how much. I just searched here for PSA 10. Let me see. Carey Price Young Guns. Let's see what I
Yeah.
can
So
find here.
850. Like, if we assume that's the price, PSA 10, 850. Like, if you are pretty big on Montreal and you believe in them, I see massive upside there because yeah, you're right. If
Yeah.
they're doing anything, it's on the back of Carey Price. Without Carey Price, they have an okay team.
Exactly. They're banking. They're spending the money on him. They spent money on a backup just to keep him pristine. And
Pristine.
if you have a pristine Price card, I think that could be worth. I think definitely if the Habs go on a playoff run, you're going to see Carey Price go over 1,000 easy for that PSA 10 Young Gun. So this is obviously a recommendation for people who have a bit more to spend, or you could spend like 150 to
Well,
$200 to get the raw version.
I mean, the other thing
But
that we
yeah,
should say is that if there's any players in here that we're mentioning that are, Gretzky or Price, or like, if you can't afford them, there's other cards of that player that you'll always be able to afford. Um,
true.
Obviously, always look at their rookie cards, but there's other rookie cards out there that you won't have to drop as much money on. You can go raw. You can even do things like buy a PSA 9, and for the most hype players, those still sell. So yeah, like it's not like you have to buy the $850 carry price.
True, but come on. Like, if you want something that's actually going to be worth potentially a lot, if you want to win the lottery here, don't get yourself some random. But I get what you're saying for sure, and obviously it depends on what your budget is. By the way, Aaron in the chat is like, do cups correlate to price? I'm assuming that's no pun intended. Like
Maybe it is intended.
who went up with the Tampa Bay win? So it's a good point. So first of all, during the Tampa Cup run, I really should have sold my Kucherov because it was like selling for like a
Yeah.
raw Kucherov was selling for like $300. Now I don't think I'll get $200 for it. So like during the Cup run, even a team that's not that popular like Tampa, the cards went up, and now I think they've gone down again. I think that's what he's getting at. But I think if Montreal were to win the Cup, it's very different than if Tampa Bay wins the Cup, because like I don't know
Yes.
anyone who is like still excited about how Tampa Bay won the Cup a few months ago. But if Montreal wins the Cup, you're
It's gonna be
trust me,
mayhem.
it's like going to be,
Yeah.
you're never going to stop. I still hear about how the Habs won the Cup in '93 and how great, and and with Patrick Waugh, right?
Yeah.
So I think that this would be huge. And obviously that's a big risk, but I don't think Carey Price's card is going down. So you're safe. Like Suzuki, he's like now like if for a PSA 10 Suzuki, we're probably looking like a couple $100 already, right?
Easy.
And like, yeah, and like for that to go up, he has to really be a star, because $200 is a lot of money.
Yeah, he'll have to do his
And
thing.
and
Yeah.
if he just stays as like a solid 60, 70 point, like play, like good player, valuable player on the team, I think it would be very hard for him to maintain that value as like new players start coming in, that people start getting excited about the new players. And all of a sudden Nick Suzuki is just like Gallagher,
Right.
who also is a solid 60 point guy. And now I bet you could get his card for even cheaper than Suzuki.
Yeah, the only thing I would caution with Carey Price is if you're doing that, uh considering like when you might want to sell, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether this is true or not, but I worry that if he retires, his card value might start to decline just because he's not around anymore. If he does that without ever winning a cup, like how legendary does he become in comparison to Patrick Waugh?
Yeah.
Like if he does win it, then like it's safe, right? Like he's won his cup. He goes down in history as one of the best Montreal goalies, which is still going to be true, but it won't be nearly as true.
Yeah, I'm with you. Maybe like I know that you've said in the past, like maybe wait for like a player to get inducted into the Hall of Fame and you might get a bump there. But
Yeah.
I think you're right. If he's retiring, and there's probably going to be like lots of media just around that, like hopefully he'll be one of these players that retires while he's on a high, like not kind of like Lundqvist now, who's still I'm sure going to have a lot of buzz when he retires, but it's sort of like now he's going to Washington, and it would be a great story from to bounce
Yeah.
back. At this point, we've been sort of seeing him spin his wheels to end his career, and it would be great to see Carey Price go out on high. But also like he's under contract still for like 8 years, so I feel like it's not very likely
I
unless he's
don't
going to
think
burn
so.
the halves and
Yeah.
retire and make them eat that salary cap hit. But okay, that's my pick. Montreal's tough because all their
It's
players, like you
super
said, are
tough.
just so expensive. I mean, wait for what's the name of that guy? Oh no, I forget. Who's the guy they drafted just like last year? He's like shorter and he got picked in the first round, and people are really excited about him.
Oh, we were just talking about him last week, Cole Caulfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but his card's going to come out and already be like super valuable because people are really excited about Caulfield. He's been tearing it up in the minors.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess that'll be like maybe even series 2 of Upper Deck this year, depending on if
Yeah, I
Caulfield
guess
makes the
that's
team.
possible. That would be pretty cool. If that's true, like that's going to be a good series. But I thought he was a college player.
So, oh, well, okay. He's most recently played at the University of Wisconsin in 2019-20. You don't think he has a shot to make the
Yeah,
team?
that's what we're seeing in chat too now. Actually, is that they don't like typically they have to commit to playing in college, right? And they can't come over until afterwards. So
I see. Okay, so maybe he's not going to play
yeah,
this year. I thought I heard some. Okay, so maybe we have to wait till the following season and he'll get
yeah,
him then. Yeah, obviously his card won't come out until he plays. He's
right,
not a Lafreniere, so he doesn't get special treatment.
exactly. So
All right,
yeah,
so who's next?
Toronto.
Winnipeg.
I haven't given you my Toronto choice.
Oh, right. Yes,
We
of
did
course. Okay, go ahead.
some tomfoolery. So yeah, my Toronto choice. I had Matthews, Nylander, and Riley on my like. What should I do here? And I know I talked about Matthews a couple episodes ago as one of my favorite investments. And I still think that's a good direction to go. I think he hasn't quite realized himself as a superstar, even though the hype is crazy. I still think he has another level. But when I was looking at the prices, I actually think that Morgan Riley might be my choice. You
Hmm.
know, Morgan Riley, you can get a PSA 10 for under $100, and he's the guy now. Barry's gone. Nobody's taking his power play spot. He's going to be on a power play with, Nylander, Marner, Matthews, and Tavares. And if, like we're saying with Montreal, if Toronto figures it out and he is the defenseman that takes them all the way, that's that $100 is gonna look like nothing.
Definitely true. Like there are a few ifs in there,
Sure.
but yeah, like so there. Okay, this is probably I'm too nervous about this, but like just the fact that he has already been bumped from the top power play by Coach
Well,
Sheldon Keefe.
yeah. So,
I
but did
know,
you hear the story about that?
yeah, it's like he said
Yeah,
like
yeah.
give it to
So
Barry.
he's like the
Fu
ultimate team guy. He was like, we need to give it
yeah.
to Barry and like get his confidence up.
So what's to say he's not going to say that about Mikko Lehtinen this year? Like let's get his confidence up.
Because he's just so much better than anyone else on
No, I
Toronto.
know. Yeah, I guess you're right. No, it's a good. He's definitely a good buy low in fantasy for
Yeah,
next year, and so I guess why not also his hockey card? Because obviously the production would help drive up his card value, and it's Toronto, so you just need to have a guy who's a
yeah,
star. So yeah, I guess it's a good point. Maybe you've even convinced me to switch from Nylander to, but I just really like Nylander.
yeah. No, I know,
Mm.
and that's fair. And like my runner-up was probably Marner because his prices actually haven't skyrocketed yet. Um, and like I said, he's a flashy guy. He's gonna get the points because he's more of that passer. He's doing funny stuff in the media. So like I was kind of torn, but Riley he's the other reason for Riley is he's become a bit of a meme since he did that the draft announcement with like a deadpan face, and he's constantly on social media like just like he literally looks like he's so not enthused, and it's like the opposite of someone being engaged, and it like people love it for some reason.
That's funny. So the fact that he has no personality is why people want to buy his card now.
It's like I don't. It's not even that. It's just like maybe he's just like not good at taking photos or something. But it's hilarious.
So I've got an honorable mention for you, which I'm expecting you to scoff at, so you could get your
No,
scoff
no
face ready.
scoffing.
This is like if you have $10,000 and you want to get 10,000 cards,
Sure.
then maybe I don't know if 10,000 of these cards exist, but I still think there might be some value in the Jack Campbell Young Guns.
Mm.
So I think that Frederick Anderson, as we know, is in the last year of his contract,
Hmm.
and I don't know if the Leafs are going to be able to afford to bring him back next year. I think Jack Campbell has never really gotten a chance in the NHL. Like with LA, he was always behind Quick, and finally when he did start to get games he looked pretty good, and now Toronto traded for him, and I think it was similar to Montreal, right? They wanted to have a backup that they could actually rely on as opposed to like Garrett Sparks or whoever who was just blowing it. And I don't see it, like it wouldn't shock me at all if next year Jack Campbell has a better save percentage than Frederick Anderson. I think Anderson will play more games still, but then at some point then maybe they decide, you know what, Jack Campbell was fine, we're going to let Anderson go to free agency. Maybe then they'll like sign some other goalie or whatever, to like be in tandem with Campbell in the following year. And I could see definitely Campbell, you like earning, he's only 28. Like I think that there is a path that's not too like unbelievable that leads to Campbell being the starting goalie for the Leafs in 2 seasons. And I think he might be, ready for the job. I think he's good. Like everything we've seen from him, it's a small sample size in the NHL, but he's shown that he's a good goalie, and it would be a great spot, right? Maybe he's the goalie leading this team to their first ever playoff series win in 10 years, however long it's been. So that's my like, and it's super cheap right now.
Yeah, I
So
mean, like if you want like a cheap straight up gamble, I would. It's an interesting option, but I don't
gamble on
like.
Campbell.
Yeah, I don't know. Like Anderson's a good goalie. Is Campbell an NHL goalie? We don't know. So like you'd have to be kind of like in gamble mode for that. But yeah, I mean like the upside is like yeah, sure, he could do it. Um
Well, don't forget the thing for me is like I just don't think the Leafs can keep Frederick Anderson even if they want to. Like they have cap issues. Anderson's gonna, if he has a good year next year, then
yeah,
he's gonna
well,
want a lot of money. And if he doesn't have a good year next year, then the Leafs aren't gonna be willing to give him
sure.
money. So I feel like either way, he's not a Leaf after next season.
But that doesn't mean they're going to give the job to Campbell, right? Like
No, of
they
course.
might find
Then we have to
another
see.
goalie to fill that spot. Quick update before we move to our next team. The Nylander went for $132 with plus 17 shipping. So
Oh
did
man.
not get
So
that.
I can make a profit by selling my Nylander right now. It's already gone up since I
Yeah.
bought it.
What's our next team though?
Let's go to Winnipeg. And so this is a tricky one. I feel like there's a lot of ways to go here because they have a lot of good like legacy players. Like you could go with like Blake Wheeler, who's had an awesome career and he's really good, and his cards aren't even that expensive. But then you get into the whole thing where I was like, well, how is it going to go up? Like,
Yeah.
is he like when it go into the Hall of Fame? Maybe, like probably not. So I'm passing on Wheeler. Then we could go to their. I don't know. I'm probably going to be like giving away your choice, but I don't know. I was telling you my thought process here, but like
Sure.
I'm looking at their Vezina winning goalie, Connor Hellebuck,
Yeah.
who's just bailed this team out, got them into the playoffs when they didn't deserve it probably, but he had such an amazing year. But then we've talked about how like it's kind of weird that his card hasn't really gone up that much, even though he won the Vezina, which kind of got me thinking that Winnipeg is like a weird Canadian team. Normally, Canadian teams, even you don't even have to be that good to have a lot of buzz around you just because people get excited. But in Winnipeg, like a lot of these players. So then I started thinking about like your Kyle Connors and Nikolai Ehlers. Aaron here is saying that if Elan says Ehlers, I'm turning this off right now. Okay, Kyle Connor is awesome, and I think I see them in the same boat. Like Connor right now is on the top power play, and Ehlers isn't. Like at even strength, I think they're pretty similar. But like then Ehlers doesn't get all the points that Connor does because Connor gets that power play time, and it's huge. What I don't know why. Like I don't know if there's a. I would assume at some point Ehlers is still a young player and really good, just like Kyle Connor should get on the top power play. And I'd love to see what could happen there. Um, Anyway, all that to say, I'm just gonna say Patrick Laine. So it's a boring answer
Yeah.
after all that. Because like Laine, like he had those first two great years where he was pacing for like 40 plus goals,
Yeah.
and then he sort of is we had that one year where he had the what was it, December, that he scored 16 goals in a month and then disappeared for the rest of the year. And then last year he bounced back pretty well, like a 70-point pace, which is pretty good, especially because of all the injuries. And like at some point he was playing with Wheeler, but then sometimes he had like whoever what's it, Cody Eakin as a center on the second line. Like he really didn't have like the best players to play with. He had Ehlers. Going into next year, I feel like he's very young. He's the same age as Matthews. They were drafted in the same year. I don't see why Laine can't go back and finally deliver on what we were hoping for after those first couple of years, which is to become the next Ovi and like score 50 goals and take a ton of shots. And he's a fun personality. You know, I still remember that interview where he said that he likes being in Winnipeg because the Wi-Fi is good. And so he's able to play lots of Fortnite.
Yeah, he's got that like cocky attitude too, right? Which some people don't jive with, but it certainly makes for good
It's fun.
TV.
Yeah. Plus, I like the look of his card a lot, as we discussed a couple episodes ago when we did
Yeah.
that really fun show, just judging the cards. I love how you see his mouth guard. He looks like he's like playing hard but having fun at the same time. That's what
Yeah.
I read on this card. And also, it's not that expensive. Like we're talking like 140 to 200, let's say, for a PSA 10. If I'm looking at recent sales
Yep.
on eBay, like compare that to Matthews, is like at like 500, 600 for the same,
Yeah.
PSA 10 grade. So it's like I feel like if he wins the Maurice Richard at some point, which I think is possible,
Certainly.
that should go up.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm taking Laine. Just like I know you have to spend more money. You could get Kyle Connor for really cheap, and I'm sure Aaron here is saying just buy a bunch. I'd rather have 4 Kyle Connors than 1 Patrick Laine, but I just don't know. I feel like Kyle Connor's already had like a couple amazing seasons in a row, and his card still hasn't gone up. And I just don't know if he has it like next level to be like an even bigger superstar. Like I feel like with Laine, I think of someone who still has the ability to become a bigger superstar.
Yeah. Yeah. I like, for what it's worth, Line was my choice as well, but it was like pretty much a tie between those two. I think the tiebreaker for me was exactly what you said. Line, for whatever reason, has that star power. I think it's because of his draft position almost primarily. Connor just doesn't get the same hype. He wasn't the guy that people were looking at next to Matthews, right? And Line has that personality. I think Line it's like 160-ish PSA 10. Connor is probably about 100 right now, so it's $60 more to get that Line. That's probably the way I'd go if I'm getting one card. But if I believe in the Jets, I'm probably doing both. Like, let's be honest.
I guess. But then are you also getting Hellebuck?
I don't
He's,
think
I think,
so.
the trickiest one
I
because I feel like his card should be worth more after this season. Like the fact, like I don't think he'll be able to repeat what he did this year. This is such a miraculous year.
it's
Like feels like a once in a lifetime thing.
yeah, that one's really tough for me to judge because I think that it's a great buy, and I have a couple, but it's perplexing that his value is what it is and it's not really changing. And the reason that I would say it's a good investment is if they do go on a playoff run, it's kind of Carey Price esque, right? Like, yes, they're going to have a
Yeah.
lot of showy guys up front, but people are going to be talking about him as potentially the MVP of the playoffs if they do it.
Yeah,
Um,
though that if to me is a lot more precarious. I think Winnipeg is in a
Surely.
lot of
Well,
trouble.
I don't think they have any worse odds than Montreal, though. They're just
I think they
they're
should.
built completely differently. Montreal is built to stop goals, and Winnipeg's built to score goals, right?
I mean, I'd be willing to make you a bet right now that Montreal is going to do better in this Canadian division than Winnipeg will.
Interesting, interesting. I'd probably take
Think about
that
that.
bet, but I'll
You'll
have to
take that
think of
bet?
it a little bit. But yeah, I don't see why Montreal would be better.
I think Winnipeg might be obviously Ottawa I think will be the worst, and I could see Winnipeg being
Obviously.
second worst in the division.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, those are probably my three bottom choices.
Oh,
Um,
maybe I'm too high on Montreal. I don't know. I think they're going to be good. I'm really excited with what they did in the
yeah,
offseason. Again,
no.
this has nothing to do with hockey card values,
Yes,
but I
it's.
think like
I mean,
you
it's all
bring
related.
it's related for Carey Price, I think. But like I'll name you some other names that I don't think their values will go up too much. But like, you've got your Josh Anderson and Toffoli
Yeah.
acquisitions. And I can name like they just have like a very deep team, and I think it's going to work well. And I really like that Carey Price is going to get to rest more often because Jake Allen will hopefully be the Jake Allen from last year and not from before when he was a bust himself. But if Jake Allen could just be like a bit average or above average would be nice, and it's not like guaranteed loss night every single time the backup plays in Montreal. I think that could do wonders for the team.
It'll
No,
help.
okay, we've still got some more teams to go
We
through,
do.
so let's go to Calgary. Why don't you give me your
Hmm.
Calgary pick?
Calgary. I have to pick a Calgary player, do I?
You don't want to? I thought it would be so easy to predict. I'm
I'm
almost
just kidding.
100% positive we're going to agree on the same one. Oh, it's
Uh,
because you're an Oilers
yeah,
fan. I see.
that was the dig. I thought I would be 100% positive going into this because I've actually mentioned the guy I started off looking at as one of my top picks, like of the entire NHL card wise. But I'm actually gonna go with Johnny Hockey. I think Goudreau is wildly underrated right now in the hockey world. Um, his young guns right now are going relatively cheap, like 140, 150 territory. And the asterisk to my choosing Johnny Gaudreau is that you can get his young guns canvas for a lot cheaper than the regular one, PSA 10 or otherwise. And it's a nicer looking card. So if I was going to take like a single card, that would be the direction I'm going. And
Hmm.
a fun fact, both of his Young Guns cards have him against the Oilers.
It gets the rivalries, and it's going to get even bigger.
It is. It's going
But
to be great.
so I'm very excited that of all the cards I gave you, one of them was my Johnny Gaudreau Young Guns, and you
Mm,
said that you think it's a 9.5 grade. So
yeah.
I'm hoping it'll land on that 10 side for PSA,
Right.
and especially if your prediction is correct. I guess I don't know. I just feel like he's had his like 100-point season. Then he's also disappointed, and now next year I think is a really big. I think next year's like a really big year for Gaudreau and his. I guess legacy is like a big word to say because
Yes. Yeah.
he's still pretty young, but like at least his future in Calgary. I think if he's
Well.
not great next year, it's hard to imagine, him not
Yeah.
like them not wanting to shop him,
I.
like a
Well.
Taylor Hall
But
situation.
that's so. First of all, like his down year was not terrible. Uh,
No.
it was still like he's still a great hockey player. He hasn't done it in the playoffs for them, but I'm not sure whether that's his fault or not. Sometimes guys just don't do well in a team's playoff system. Um, Look at Jordan Eberle on the Oilers, for example. Uh,
Yeah, but how much is Jordan Everly's young gun? But I know what you're saying.
no, it's just like
Uh,
he hasn't done his thing. But the trade rumors of Gaudreau and also him like potentially signing somewhere else when he's a free agent are constantly talking about Philadelphia, and that I think would be a big boom for his hockey card.
Really? Even though he's leaving a Canadian market? I don't
Philadelphia's
know.
market is better than Calgary's in the hockey world.
Interesting. I guess Carter Hart, people love him.
Yeah, yeah. People are
Uh,
crazy about hockey over there.
so yeah, Gaudreau's like a fun swing, but like he's already not cheap. So to me, it's just like I don't want to like be recommending a card that I think there's a solid chance it could go down, and I
Well,
feel like Gaudreau could go up, and I think it could go down.
I don't think it'll go down.
I think if he has another 60-ish point season. It could.
He's still
Like,
flashy though. He's still like the guy. Like it's not tied to his point total in my opinion. There's also not that many guys that I care about card wise on Flames. Like there's two. There's him and there's
yeah.
Matthew Kachuk.
Yeah. Who's my
That's
pick, by
it.
the
Like
way?
there's no other options. Like I Monahan is like there, but
Well, they call him Boring Sean
yeah,
Monahan.
like it's a rough place to go look for a hockey card.
But I think that you nailed it and we're done.
Yeah, that's
Matthew
it,
Kachuk.
right?
But that's the answer. That's my answer for sure. Matthew Kachuk's great. He's an awesome player. He's a fun personality. I'm doing two Kachucks on this podcast.
Yeah.
Get the Kachuk set. And you're spending less money on the PSA 10 Matthew Kachuk than you're spending on the Gaudreau. And I think that come a year or two from now, it's going to be worth more. That's another bet I'd be willing to take, because I think Matthew Kachuk's young gun is worth more, because I think he's going to once again lead the team in points next year. And it will then be like established that he's the superstar on the team. And Gaudreau's great. I mean, I'm like too like downplaying Gaudreau. Like I still, there's a very good chance. I guess Gaudreau to me is like more risk. Like he
Yeah.
definitely still has the upside. Like I think I don't see why he can't have another 100 points. We actually dug into Gaudreau just on the last episode of Keeping Carlson, and Brian dug into the down year, and he brought up micro stats and all of these reasons why maybe what happened last year in Calgary won't happen again.
Yeah.
But even in a weird year for the Flames, Matthew Kachuk just continued to roll. He doesn't even need like superstar line mates. Like he does it playing with Backlund and Mangiapane, who, no shade to them, but they're no Lindholm and Monahan. So I don't know. I just think Matthew Kachuk I'm surprised his card is as low as it is. And it's probably just because Calgary hasn't done anything in a little while. And, just like we've said for the other teams, like once they go on a run, I think Kachuk is the guy that's going to get all the coverage,
Yeah,
and people are going to love him.
I mean, like, I'm high on Matthew Kachuk cards, and these ones were close for me, which is kind of why I was like, you know what? Gaudreau Young Guns Canvas is underpriced. That's probably where I'd go.
Fair.
Yeah.
So does Juuso Välimäki have a Young Guns? I know he plays. He does.
Yeah.
You know what? That might actually be my pick, to be honest. Now, if I'm really thinking about it, if you wanted to go, this is my Jack Campbell choice. So Välimäki has been tearing it up in Europe. I think I'm saying this straight. Give me some more like euphemisms or idioms that I could use instead of tearing it up.
Ripping it up.
He's what?
Ripping it up.
He's getting a lot of points in
Yes.
Europe leading into this season. He's a defenseman on the Flames, for those of you who don't know. And Calgary does not have a lot of competition. Like they have Mark Giordano to run the top power play, who last year got bumped for Eric Gustafsson, and Gustafsson's gone. So of course you could just say Giordano takes it over, but Giordano's like 37 years old. So that job's not going to be his for long regardless. Who else? They have Rasmus Anderson, I think got a shot at one point last year, but Välimäki, I think he's a really good shot to be like a good sleeper in fantasy. And at this point, maybe not even, because I think a lot of people are starting to talk about him. He's got buzz. And I'm seeing his Young Guns raw cards selling recently for we're talking $3, $4.
Yeah.
So,
you know what? Actually, if I'm going to buy a Calgary player, maybe I'd go that route just so I don't have to spend as much money on a Calgary player.
You know what? Actually, let me just uncheck sold items and just look at Välimäki Young Guns.
Like buy now.
Let's get ending soonest, or I guess I could just look at it buy now.
You should put in
there's a buy now for 8
Välimäki buy now lot, and then see if you can get 10 of them.
Okay, Välimäki Young Guns. The problem with this is now I'm all nervous because I gave you all these cards of mine and you told me about how crappy their conditions are. Yeah. Now I'm nervous. I want to buy a card, but I don't want it to come back and then have you tell me this is likely just a PSA 8. Of a card that just came out a year ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, go rewatch our episode where we talk about making sure to look closely at the photos. I'm just kidding. But
all right, fine. I'm gonna bid. I'm bidding. Okay, there's one that ends in 6 days. I'm just gonna bid now, for $1, and I'm sure I'll get outbid. But at least this will remind me that I like Välimäki. So after the show, it'll be there in my list of things I've bid on.
All right, what other teams do we have to do here? Is it just the last two?
Yeah, Vancouver and Edmonton. We're going west, and we're not all the way west yet, so we're going to stop in your favorite place.
Stop in my favorite place. Why don't you go first, Edmonton, since it's my favorite place?
Okay. Edmonton's tricky.
Yeah,
they're kind of it's I could say Connor McDavid.
Sure.
Because to be honest, that's probably my answer is Connor McDavid. Yeah. Again, this is Carey Price. You need to open your wallet because, but he's a clear superstar. I don't need to say anything about Connor McDavid. He's the Gretzky. Yeah, you have to spend probably like 16, 1700 right now to get a PSA 10 Young Gun. So that's out of most people's price range. I'm not going to be spending that much money. I've got a McDavid Young Guns that I bought off of Kijiji that I spent $550 on. And it's KSA 8.5 and it has a corner that doesn't look that great. And it's a little sad, but it's cool to have, and I have it on display in my living room beside my Eric Carlson 9.5 BGS. And currently, I've got actually my Brady Kachuk rounding out the trio because I only have 3 stands at the moment. uh, and I want to put an OV there eventually.
Yes.
But anyway, all that to say, like McDavid is like he's going to go up, and like I'm not going to say Draisaitl, who you brought up recently, as like already approaching McDavid value. I personally don't think that's going to last. Like Draisaitl is awesome, but I feel like 10 years from now, I'd be willing to bet so much money that a McDavid Young Guns is going to be worth a lot more than a Draisaitl Young Guns. I just think
Yeah,
McDavid's the
like
face of the NHL.
I could see Draisaitl going up a lot, but yeah, as you say, McDavid is the face of the NHL. He's the best player in the world. He's fantastic to watch on a nightly basis, and there's very few players in the league that you can say are fantastic to watch every single night.
Yeah,
It's like
he's the
even when they
best.
lose, it's just fun seeing him step on the ice. It's magical. Like I've gone to games where the Oilers get blown out, and you just watch McDavid, and it's not quite as bad.
I mean, I guess like, and what's the other option? Like Ryan Nugent Hopkins is like already not that cheap.
Well,
You
like
go to, but okay, I'm gonna guess. Can I guess who I think you're gonna say?
yeah,
Well, I think you might just say Draisaitl because it seems like you really like Draisaitl. You'll say the Draisaitl canvas, I think. But if you don't say that, I think you might say Evan Bouchard.
yeah. I mean, like so I have a lot of guys that I think are good choices. Yamamoto is one that I think
Right.
has been underpriced for quite a while, and he's going to get his opportunity this year. Um, But
Hmm.
actually, Ryan Nugent Hopkins is probably my runner up to McDavid, who I just like. I've been investing in McDavid. I can't not say it's McDavid. But Nugent Hopkins, you can get a PSA 10 for $100. He is obviously a very talented guy. He's going to be playing this year with McDavid or Draisaitl the entire year. Um, if these guys go on a run, which they're certainly capable of doing, he's going to get a ton of points. I know a lot of people in oil country are thinking Nugent Hopkins could be pacing Draisaitl and McDavid next year.
I mean, it's the way that last season ended. In the last couple of months, Nugent Hopkins was among the top scorers
Yeah,
in the league. So it's possible. And it was playing with Yamamoto.
yeah. And
So he
$100,
could.
like that's what? How much? $60 cheaper than Johnny Gaudreau?
But is that true? Nugent Hopkins, Young Guns, PSA 10. I'm looking right now. I'm seeing more like 160. Obviously, that might just be an overpriced. Let me go to sold items here on eBay.
Yeah,
127. I'm seeing
127.
one
Okay,
sold for a little higher, but yeah,
it's like
around the same level as Gaudreau,
yeah,
I'd
like
say.
maybe a little lower, similar. But like when you're buying Oilers cards, there's kind of like three territories. There's like, well, maybe four. There's Gretzky by himself. There's McDavid or Draisaitl. Then there's like Nugent Hopkins land, and then your Yamamoto, Bouchard, the young guys that haven't quite done it. Um, but I think a lot of these guys are good investments. The Oilers are like Montreal. People are insane for them. They've got lots of talent, lots of exciting talent. I also looked closely at Tyson Berry as a potential good investment and one that I've done. The only reason I scratched him off my list is like there's not really that many PSA 10s out there. He doesn't have the Oilers jersey on, and grading his raw cards, like the centering is just constantly wrong.
Yeah, that season was weird for cards,
Yeah,
and
and
yeah,
obviously wrong.
right. It's like these two white lines on either side, and you just have to measure like if the white is the same length on one side and the other, and a lot of them are not.
Well, and you can measure
Yeah,
it by looking at it. You're like, that one's off.
yeah. I'm looking on eBay. You can't even find right now a Barry PSA 10 Young Guns. That's annoying. I wouldn't even know what to do. I want one right now. Someone tell me if someone listening has a Barry PSA 10 Young
I
Guns,
yeah, like I've
I
got
want it.
I've got the Barry Young Guns search saved on eBay, and like they don't pop up.
It's like a Verana. I find his Young Guns is also hard to find. Maybe Barry's is even harder. Okay, so that's and then let's end on Vancouver. again, like some of these teams, it's kind of hard because I just really love Elias Pettersson, and it's like he's again close to a McDavid level for me. Like
Whoa,
he's
whoa, whoa, whoa.
well, I think that
He's
he
Draisaitl level. Let's not get insane.
except like the face of his team, like I think like the Canucks go far. Pettersson's the clear superstar. His highlights are amazing. Maybe not. It's crazy to say McDavid level, right? Because
Yeah, that's
McDavid is
nuts.
already the highest, but. I don't know. As far as exciting young players in the league, like after McDavid, I might even say Pettersson number 2. Like
Yeah.
who else would it be? Matthews?
McKinnon.
Like I guess McKinnon. Yeah. So I feel exactly like McKinnon's card is worth a lot more right now than Pettersson,
Yeah.
and I could
Well,
see
not it's
that.
like it is, but it's starting to even out, right?
Yeah,
Um,
Pettersson's PSA 10s have been going for a bit over 300
yeah.
recently. If you go back to the first couple episodes of the show, I was talking about wanting to buy one for 200,
Mm,
and so I should have taken my own advice.
yeah. So,
But I
wow.
love him. But again, that's hard to be recommending these like expensive players.
But are you gonna do it
And
anyways?
how about you go first? Because that was
Okay,
what was
okay. I'll
scheduled.
go first. So my choice is yes, you should invest in Pedersen 100%, but my choice is Brock Besser because
Yeah,
you can get him
I
around
feel that.
$100. He's going to play with Pedersen. He is a pure goal scorer. He's not valued that highly right now. People are kind of forgotten about him because he had some injury trouble. He kind of had some struggles getting back into his stride. For a while there, Toffoli was there, kind of taking a little bit of his ice time or opportunity or whatever it was. But I fully expect him to come back and be number 2 on that team. If you
Really?
don't count Horvat as like, but I don't really count him from a hype perspective. I just think he's
Uh-huh.
probably their second best player.
What
Uh,
about like a JT Miller? He
no,
was awesome last year.
yeah, JT Miller is a good player. He's a bit more of a complimentary player.
Fair. Well, I think the other really big name that's higher than Besser and I guess a little lower than Pedersen is Quinn Hughes right now.
Oh yeah,
Like,
sorry, I was talking forwards.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But Hughes, I guess, is so expensive.
yeah.
Like we're
It's
talking like
nuts,
$300 for a Hughes, and this is a card that's from this year.
right?
Pedersen's only from a couple years ago, so I guess it's fair. But like, yeah, it's hard to recommend investing in Quinn Hughes for the same reason as Nick Suzuki.
Right.
Just like I feel like he's already priced as if he's a Hall of Famer, like
It's
to be
it's hard
like
to imagine him getting like way higher.
yeah. I feel like Pedersen could like I think that Pedersen like at this point Quinn Hughes got like paced for like 70 points last year. What are we expecting? Like him to pace for 100 points as a defenseman? I don't think it's happening. But like Pedersen, I think is going to be hitting the 100 point mark maybe next year. I said it actually on a recent Keeping Carlson episode that I
A
could see it happening.
a
And Brian was a
hundred
little more
a 100 point mark or a
apprehensive.
100 point pace.
Okay, well, yeah, if they only play 52 games, I don't think he's going to hit the 100 point mark. But you get
Well,
what I'm saying.
McDavid and Draisaitl will.
I mean, it could be close.
I mean, they
That'd
did
be
it last year with like the same number of games, basically.
yeah, a few more. But okay, well,
Yeah,
I'm being
like
pedantic. Speaking of being pedantic, McKinnon, Aaron saying in the chat room here is like $1,000. So it's still a lot higher than Pedersen, who's
yeah,
like
yeah.
closer
I,
to.
I was more saying that they're starting to get closer together. Um,
Yeah, so if you think it's going to continue, another reason to buy Pedersen cards
yeah, no,
because I don't think McKinnon's going down.
I definitely think that's an awesome buy. I've actually been buying his 9.5s. I have 3 of them now, I think.
Oh, nice.
BGS.
I have one raw Pedersen, and that's another one of my cards that you told me you thought it looked pretty nice. So
Mmm.
if I could get that as a 10, ooh,
Excellent.
I
Excellent. Yeah,
wish
I have a
that'll
raw
be a
one
dream come true.
too, which is for sale because I don't know if it'll get PSA 10.
So come post it in our Discord in the buy and sell room that we have. By the way, if anyone wants to come hang out in our Discord, I guess we're at the end of the show now,
Yeah.
so we can get into letting people know how to get in touch. So yeah, we have a Twitter at Near Mid Hockey, Instagram at Near Mid Hockey. We stream on Twitch every week on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. And then you could find the YouTube video afterwards at nearmidhockey.com/YouTube. If you're listening to this, that means you have access to the show notes at nearmidhockey.com, which link to everything here. And yeah, like I was saying, we have a Discord. It's the Keeping Karlsson patron Discord, but we've made the hockey card channels open to everyone, even non-patrons of Keeping Karlsson. At this point now, you just have to message me like to tell me to like give you the hockey card role so that you'll have access. But get in touch. We'll get you in there. And then Ryan will post what he's selling his Pettersson Young Guns for, and then we could have a little bidding war. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I might post some of my other Young Guns, maybe not quite as high quality as Pettersson, but I'll post a couple other things that I'm gonna be selling upcoming. And yeah, probably the next 3 episodes, we're gonna get into the rest of the teams. We've got what do we have now? 23 more to do.
Well, we just did
24 more to do.
7.
There's 31 teams now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So maybe next we could do that division that has like Buffalo and Boston and Philadelphia and Washington. That could Pittsburgh. Like, that'll be a really fun one to go through. So maybe let's aim for that for next week. Okay. So yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Hope you like the show. Oh, hey, we'll also take a 5-star review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or anything like that. But let's let you go home. Bye, everyone. Thanks to everyone who joined us live, and see you next week.
Go get them Young Guns.